All right, welcome everyone. Let's dive right into something we probably don't think about too much, but we do all the time.
Introductions.
Yeah, introductions. We've got this really helpful guide all about English conversations.
Oh, cool.
And they have a ton of great examples about how to do introductions, right?
Interesting.
So let's break them down and figure out how to make introductions work for us, no matter what kind of situation we're in.
Makes sense.
Okay, so to get started, let's jump into a pretty casual, everyday scenario. The guide kicks off with this scene where Jake meets Sarah in a class.
Okay.
It seems pretty basic, hi, I'm Jake. Nice to meet you, I'm Sarah.
Right.
But then Jake adds, if you need help with anything, just ask. Is that a little too forward, or is that actually a good strategy?
That's interesting, isn't it? Because on the surface, it just seems friendly, but I think there's almost a subtle psychology at play there.
Oh, really?
It's by offering to help, Jake is kind of subtly signaling that he's trustworthy.
I see.
And it can create this sense of, oh, I owe you one, or reciprocity.
Reciprocity, yeah.
Yeah, he's making a small investment in the potential relationship there.
Oh, that's interesting.
It might even make Sarah more open to connecting with him.
Wow. So it's not even just about being polite. It's almost like you're being strategic.
Yeah.
And positioning yourself as someone who's really approachable and helpful.
Absolutely. And, this whole thing about establishing common ground, that's super important. And actually, it's even more apparent in the next scene from the guide. So this is where Jake introduces Sarah to his friend David.
Okay.
And he's like, this is David. He's on my soccer team. So it's he's not just saying their names.
Yeah.
He's giving them a possible conversation starter.
Oh, yeah. Something to bond over. Soccer.
Exactly.
But wouldn't it be more effective if he actually went beyond just saying, oh, you both like soccer? Maybe say, oh, David's been teaching me some amazing soccer tricks. Add a little bit more personality and give Sarah a reason to really engage with David.
Right. You're taking it to another level. You're turning it from just, a bland introduction into an invitation to actually connect.
To interact, yeah.
By adding that little detail, it becomes facilitating a connection rather than just an introduction.
Yeah, I like that. It's cool how these really subtle tweaks can actually make such a difference.
It really is.
So now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about introductions in a professional setting. So in one of the scenes, Jake meets Sarah at work.
Okay.
And it's a lot more formal than the classroom, obviously.
Right.
Full names, departments, looking forward to working with you. That kind of vibe. All very polite and professional.
Yeah.
But it also seems, I don't know, a little generic.
I agree. I think it gets the job done, but it doesn't really leave much of an impression. It's like they're just reading a script.
Yeah, following a formula.
Yeah, and in a professional setting, that can make you just blend in.
Right, not stand out.
Exactly.
Okay, so then how do you make a professional introduction more memorable without being unprofessional?
Well, the guide gives us another example. So there's a scene where Jake introduces Sarah to his colleague, Mark, and he says, this is Mark Stevens. He's our lead designer. He's the creative genius behind our latest campaign. Did you catch the difference there?
Well, he highlighted Mark's achievements and expertise.
Exactly.
It's almost like he's giving Sarah a cheat sheet for navigating, the company's hierarchy.
I like that. A cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it subtly positions Mark as someone worth knowing. It's more than just names and titles. It's strategic.
Yeah. So I'm starting to notice a pattern here. Whether it's casual or professional, a good introduction's not just about giving information. It's about making a connection and actually leaving a lasting impression.
Definitely.
But how does this translate to more social situations?
Parties and events?
Yeah, events or parties where you're meeting a bunch of new people.
Right. That can be tricky.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you want to be warm and inclusive, but also respect the kind of tone of the event.
Totally. So let's look at a couple more scenes from the guide.
Okay.
In one scene, Jake is introducing Sarah to a group of friends at a party.
Okay.
He keeps it pretty casual. He just says, hey everyone, this is Sarah. She just moved to the city. Seems simple enough, but is there more he could do to help her really integrate with the group?
I think there's always room for more nuance.
Okay.
Instead of just mentioning that she moved to the city, what if he said something more specific?
Like what?
Sarah just moved here from Seattle, and she's already found the best coffee shop in town.
Ooh, I like that.
It gives the group a more specific thing to talk about.
Right.
That goes beyond just where are you from?
Yeah, the typical small talk.
Exactly.
And it kind of takes the pressure off Sarah too, instead of putting her on the spot.
Right.
He's giving her a platform to share something about herself.
Yeah, and it shows that Jake put some thought into it.
Yeah, he's going beyond just going through the motions.
Right.
Okay, so context really matters. But what about those more formal events, like work conferences and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
In another scene, Jake is introducing Sarah at a work conference, and he says, "Good evening, everyone. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Sarah Miller. She's our new sales representative, and she brings years of experience in the tech industry." So it's definitely a lot more professional than the party introduction.
Yeah.
But does it risk, like, being too dry?
It is very straightforward.
Yeah.
Which kind of need in a formal setting.
Right.
But I think you could add a little warmth.
Okay.
Like, what if he added something like, Jera's been a fantastic addition to the team, and I know you'll all enjoy getting to know her.
Oh, I see. So it's still professional, but has a bit more personality.
Right, exactly.
And he's, like, giving her an endorsement, too?
Yeah, like a mini endorsement to highlight how valuable she is.
Yeah, which is smart in a networking environment.
Yeah.
So it's interesting in both of these scenarios, casual and formal, Jake avoids just stating facts.
Right.
He adds those little extra things that encourage people to interact.
Yes.
And that make the introduction actually memorable.
Totally. He's framing the introduction in a way that, like, you know, sparks people's interest.
Yeah, it makes them want to know more.
Exactly.
Now, I'm kind of curious about something. We've talked about how to start an introduction. But what about how to, like, wrap things up?
Oh, how to end it.
Yeah, because those can be awkward too, you know? You don't want to just, like, trail off or walk away abruptly.
That's true. It's just as important as the beginning.
So what are some ways to do that?
To end smoothly.
Yes, smoothly and gracefully.
Yeah, so it seems like the guide actually has a scene that really highlights this.
Oh, okay, what is it?
So in the final scene, Jake says, "It was great meeting you, Sarah. I hope we can talk more soon."
Okay.
It seems really simple, but it's actually pretty smart.
I see what you mean. He's not just saying goodbye, he's saying he wants to talk to her again.
Right.
So it makes Sarah feel like she's worth talking to.
Exactly.
And it reinforces that connection they just made.
Exactly. And by saying, you know, talk more soon,
Yeah.
he's hinting that, like, you know, maybe they could work on a project together or something. Or just grab coffee, you know.
Oh, okay, so he's leaving it open-ended.
Yeah, without being too pushy.
Yeah, he's planting a seed, but not putting any pressure on Sarah.
Right, exactly. And, you know, I think we can use this idea for more than just, like, personal introductions.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, what if we thought about introducing a new idea with that same kind of intentionality?
Oh, that's a cool thought. It's like taking these social skills we use for, like, meeting people
Right.
and using them for, like, sharing ideas.
Exactly. Like, instead of just throwing an idea out there,
Yeah.
we think about, you know, how to frame it, how to get people interested, and how to make them want to hear more.
So it's the same as personal introductions. We have to think about, like, you know, who's the audience?
Right.
What's the context? What are we actually trying to achieve here?
And just like ending an introduction.
Yeah.
We need to think about how to end our, you know, presentation of the idea.
To get people to keep thinking about it.
Yeah, to encourage them to explore more.
So instead of just being like, okay, here's what we talked about, goodbye.
Right.
You could end with a question or maybe even like a challenge.
Yeah, a challenge.
To get people thinking.
Exactly. So it seems like, you know, whether we're introducing ourselves or someone else or even a new idea, it's all about making a connection and getting people interested.
And leaving them with, like, a good impression.
Exactly. Yeah, it's amazing how much we can get out of just looking closely at these conversations.
Really is.
Every interaction, no matter how short, can be meaningful if we're intentional about it.
So next time you introduce yourself to someone, think about how you can make it really count.
Right.
How can you make it memorable? And how can you make it lead to something more?
You know, a good introduction can start a conversation,
Yeah.
connection, maybe even like a whole revolution.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into introductions.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep those conversations going.